Work permits. Question. The issuer must stop work if the issuer leaves the job site. More men are working than stated on the permit. The job site was found to be unsafe. The issuer loses his copy of the permit. Question. A pipe fitter cannot work on the same pieces of equipment using welder's permit because welders are usually contractors. Gas tests are not needed for pipe fitters. Each type of work involves different hazards. Joint site inspections are not needed for pipe fitters. Question. If a work permit is not issued during an emergency, what must be done to do the work? Superintendent must approve. All safety precautions must be taken. Wear all PPE. Joint site inspection. Question. The receiver must stop work if he cannot find the issuer. The work site becomes unsafe. The issuer leaves the job site. The designated representative must leave. Question. Which of the following is not a restricted area? Tank farm, loading pier, dump site, gasoline station. Question. What do you call an area where work permits are required? Restricted area, sensitive area, controlled area, dangerous area. Question. Who must sign a permit issued for up to 30 days? Receiver and designated representative, operations and maintenance division heads, designated representative, operations foreman, issuer and receiver. Question. Why is the checklist section important to issuer and receiver? It tells them all precautions to take. It makes sure important steps have been taken. It defines the duration and scope of work. It controls the receiver's break time. Question. Which work permit requires saw to be covered within 75 feet? Entry, cold. Hot, release. Question. Who is responsible for safety at the work site after a permit has been extended? The original issuer and receiver, the person who countersigned the permit, the one who originally did the joint site inspection, the issuer and receiver who signed the extension. Question. What happens if work must continue past the time the original permit was to expire? Extend the permit or issue a new one. Work can continue until the job is completed. Stop work and come back the next day. Keep working. But tell the issuer. Question. What are the basic precautions for confined space entry? Select all items that apply. Assign standby man. Install lighting. Install air mover. Take gas tests. Isolate, clean, and purge equipment. Question. A release of hazardous liquids or gases permit is required when operators release hydrocarbons to the flare, craftsman builds a scaffold, pipe fitters open a line or install blinds. Operations drain equipment. Question. What hazard would you find when doing hot work? Auto ignition temperature, ignition source, ignition switch, ignition point. Question. We use work permits in hazardous areas to identify expired permit, alternated representative, the designated representative, hazards and precautions. Question. The use of a vehicle in an operating area requires which work permit? Entry, hot, cold, release. Question. What are the basic precautions for cold work? Select all items that apply. Gas test, PPE, special work precautions, standby man, fire watch. Question. What is oxygen deficiency? a lower than normal amount of oxygen. Higher than normal amount of oxygen. Less than 23.5% oxygen, oxygen that above its flash point. Question: what are the basic precautions for hot work permit? Select all items that apply: blind, isolate, clean, and purge equipment, fire watch, fire protection equipment, cover saw drains, gas test. Question: what is the acceptable level of LEL to allow hot work? 10 to 100 ppm, 0.0 ppm, 5% to 50%, 21% to 23.5%. Question: select the statement where all three items are needed before allowing entry into a confined space: air mover, respirators, and counter signatures, fire watch, air mover, gas test, fire extinguisher, barricades, lighting, standby man, air mover. Question: who should keep the work permit? The standby man, the issuer, the receiver, the fire watches. Question: what should be assigned when working near combustible materials? Standby man, fire watch, firemen, flagman. Question: what training should a fire watch have? Operate heavy equipment, operate control room, operate fire equipment, operate radio equipment. Question: who should ask for work permit before they start working? The standby man, the receiver, the fire watches, the issuer. Question: who should point out all hazards and write on the work permit? The issuer, the standby man, the fire watches, the receiver. Question: who is responsible for the safety on the work site? The receiver, the issuer, both issuer and receiver, both fire watch and the standby man. Question: what is the purpose of the joint site inspection? To check the availability of equipment and manpower, to see the work plan and its implementation, to discuss the scope of work and identify any hazards or risks. Question: what must be checked during the joint site inspection? Select all items that apply: safety devices, equipment condition, gas test, attendance report. Question: who decides whether an area should be restricted or not? The department manager, the superintendent, the issuer, the receiver. Question: what type of work does the work permit system authorize? Specific construction, maintenance, or repair work? All work constructed for Saudi Aramco, all work done by maintenance or contractors, non-hazardous work where safety is important. Question: who is a work permit? Receiver: a qualified Saudi Aramco employee, a person certified to receive permits, a person nominated by his supervisor, a maintenance or contract worker. Question: the safety of work site is a sole responsibility of an issuer. True. False. Question: what responsibility do issuers and receivers share when signing a work permit? Responding to emergency events, monitoring the operation of process, maintaining safety conditions at the site, getting counter signatures from superintendent. Question: restricted areas include which locations? Gas plants, tank farms, and assembly areas, pump stations, tank farms, and gas well, dining halls, housing units. An operating area, welding shops, pump stations, an assembly area. Question: Who can decide that work is a low risk and that a work permit is not needed? The superintendent. The receiver, the department manager, the issuer. Question: who must sign the work permit to close it? Competent person, issuer and receiver, gas tester, issuer and receiver, designated representative. Question: what must the receiver do if he stops work? Tell the senior craftsman, tell the designated representative, tell the issuer, tell his immediate supervisor. Question: work permit can be issued for up to 30 days if the work site is far away, only cold work will be done, it is highly unlikely that conditions will change. The receiver cannot close the work permit. Question: who must sign a work permit to extend it? Superintendent's counter-signature is required, the new issuer, receiver, and gas tester, the new issuer and receiver, the new area foreman and the new issuer. Question: use a fire blanket or hand dig only are example of what? Additional precaution, hazards, precautionary hazards, regular precaution. Question: where could an issuer find out which permit to issue for a special job? On the back of any work permit, facility operating instructions, on the front of any work permit, corporate loss prevention manual. Question: work permit authorizes specific work at specific location, specific tools at general location, general work at specific plant, general equipment at tool work site. Question: the information's entered in the exact work location box is important because it controls what equipment the receiver can use, where the receiver can work, how long the receiver can work, how many workers can beat the job site. Question: what considered cold work? Sand removal and scaffold building, brush painting and abrasive blasting, scaffold building and grinding, abrasive blasting and painting. Question: what must the issuer do if a joint site inspection is not done? Required barricades and warning sign, assign a designated representative, tell his foreman, write why not on the work permit. Question: what information must the gas tester enter on the work permit? LTX 310 expiry date, name and badge number, badge and certificate number, gas test results and normal level, gas test results, name and badge number. Question: any worker can be assigning a standby man, true, false? Question: why must equipment be de-energized and depressurized before work is started? Accidental startup could happen. Purge gas can be lost, locks and tags will deteriorate, gas tests are not accurate. Question: who install locks and tags first? Security, power distribution, electrical engineer. Operations. Question: installing locks and tags on electrical breakers prevents accidental, blind installation. Startup of equipment. Nitrogen release, purging of equipment. Question: how can process equipment be cleaned? Treating and hydrocracking, closing valves and adding locks, gas testing and steaming, steaming and water washing. Question: who installs receivers locks? One member from each work crew. The engineer and receiver. The issuer and gas taster, every member of the work crew. Question: we isolate equipment to make sure it cannot be shut down on purpose, shut down by accident, taken to a shop for repairs, started up, leak or cause electrical shock. Question: why are hold tag installed? To record gas tests, to record accidents, explain why the lock is installed, to identify the issuer and receiver. Question: removing fuses from an electrical circuit or disconnecting electric wiring is an example of what? Locking, cleaning, purging, isolating.